Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode Behind the Wealth. Before we start, we'd like to make the normal and usual announcement that everything we say and everything we suggest during this episode, it is for general advice. And if you need to know a bit more about the subject we're talking today, call your accountant or financial planner for specific advice. So whatever we say is just general advice. Today's subject, it is again about retirement. And the reason for that is because I want to do a little bit more talking about the other side of the retirement stages. We have in a previous episode addressed the retirement stages, which in shortly I'll summarize briefly. We want to address the retirement stages also on a psychological point of view. The reason for this conversation is because I came across to this subject 2-3 times the last month from clients, existing clients and potential clients. And it just triggered my personal interest to explore a little bit more than usual. So in the past, we talked about retirement stages, and basically in retirement stages, in my view, there are really three bigger stages. One is when we're ready to retire, we consider to retire, we plan a bit of a retirement. Financially, we go and see our financial advisor or accountant if we have enough money for us to retire. And this is usually between 55, 60, and 65. So it's about 10, 15 years, say 50 to 65, that most people ask this question more precisely and not just as a broader idea. Then people go to retirement at 60, say 65, 67, and they start then having a bit of good time, because the first time, we call it the honeymoon time that you stop working, you don't have the issue to wake up in the morning particular time, you have less commitment, less stress of the work and the job you to have all this time, and you have the time to do whatever you want to do. Paint the house, do some gardening, fix the garage door, or whatever all of us we like to do, and we never had time to do it. So at that time, and that was the honeymoon time, catch up with more friends, more coffees, more teas, more breakfasts, more brunches. It is a time that is relaxation. And then becomes the second time. And we travel at that time a lot. We spend as much money as before when we used to be employed or working for ourselves, because we have the health, we have the mental capacity, we have the physical capacity, and we have the time. So it is really very good time, the early stage of retirement. Then this financially stays up to 72, 73 years old, 75, depends on every person and every couple. And what it does, then we've done everything. We traveled overseas so many times. We did everything we needed to do. Then we slow down by default, not because we need to slow down, but because we ticked most of the things that we want to do. And because we tick them, we just take it easy. So this is the second stage. And of course, the third stage, we can come anytime. It depends on our personal health. And if we lost a significant person in our life, our other half, then it becomes a little bit the doom and gloom phase, that the mental capacity failing a little bit, maybe not, but usually the physical capacity failing slowly from wear and tear of life and aging. And this is the later stage. Most people come to financial planners and accountants to deal mostly for the first stage. Do I have money to retire? Do I have enough to spend? Do I have enough to do this or that? And we address usually the first and the second stage. The third stage, it's a bit further to down, and it's very hard to project because all depends on health, depends on other family matters, if the couple is still together or only one left, and other many issues. Of course, there is a lot of people coming to that stage before they do their last transition to a retirement home or a nursing home. But today's subject, I really want to talk a bit more about the psychological part of the retirement, that a lot of us, we don't account for that and we don't think about that. And when we go to the professionals like the accountants or the financial planners, or even to the solicitors for the estate planning, never been addressed that issue in depth. Number one, because a financial planner or an accountant, he doesn't look that he is the profession that he will dig deeper to that area. But me, Dimitri, as a personal experience with my clients, I feel the obligation to talk about this with my client when they come across. And the psychological part of the retirement, I divided to 3 to 4 stages. So the first stage is again the honeymoon stage, that everything it goes well. I just stopped working and I do everything I need to do. And psychological point of view, it takes 6 months to a year time. And this is, I withdraw these comments, not because I personally retired, but from the conversation I had with my community members through the church and through the Greek community that I'm involved, through my clients all these years. The first 6 months or a year, it is really about have a good time, catching up with friends, doing things that we didn't have time to do, seeing more the grandchildren than before. But what it happens then? It is not enough, because how many coffees and margaritas can you have in a village, go on holidays? How much you're going to travel? After that, it comes that you had enough of that and you want something more. So the second stage after the honeymoon, which is usually after the 6 to 1 year, becomes a stage that we get bored. What I do now? And you can see this from the conversation you have, and you talk to Mr. John Smith, for example, and I said, Mr. John, how is retirement? I said, all good. Yeah, the same, wake up, watch some TV, go read the paper, the same. And it's not what they say, but it's the way how they say what they say. The shoulders are down, there's no much smile, there's no much of satisfaction of that. And a lot of time we're thinking how this has happened. I mean, these people, they were important in the profession. They were important what they used to do as a chief financial officers or as engineers or as a mechanic, any profession that usually these people do before they retire. What it happens when you retire? You become a little bit less relevant. In a matter of fact, you become almost irrelevant for the majority of the society. Then what it happens, you lose your power, you lose your little kingdom. And this kingdom could be just your desk. This kingdom could be your firm. This kingdom can be your sphere of influence. I mean, you're a real estate agent, you talk 100 people a week. You talk people, you talk here, you have this, you go into the houses, you inspect, and suddenly you're nothing. Nobody wants to talk to you because you're not in the business of selling houses. So you become a little bit more irrelevant. You lose power, you lose influence. And this has an effect on us. Why it has an effect on us? Because to what we are for 30, 40, 50, 60 years is part of our identity that we created for ourselves. So losing this identity without compensating with something else, it is a bit depressive. And that's what it happens. On the second stage, on the third stage, after we get bored, we lose this identity. What we're going to do now with our life. And a lot of people, they try to do something that always wanted. For example, to write the book that they didn't have time to write it. Anything artistic that they didn't have the time to do it, gardening, and now they have the time. But what do they find after they take a little bit of that? The book was too hard to write it. And he thought it's going to be easy, but it's not that easy because we don't put the time and the commitment and we're stuck and we're not in the flow. So suddenly all these things that were idealistic in our mind, what I'm going to do in the future, they lose value, they lose value, they lose value because they're not as glorified as they were in our mind before we do it. The other aspect of this psychological things is that we are available. And we are available to the younger generation, to the family. So because you're not working, suddenly you're available to do anything. And you're available as a resource or as a last resource for you to be a helpful person for your family, which is nothing wrong. It's absolutely nice, and it's a very reward situation to have that instead of not have anyone that wants your company. But sometimes it is too much because you feel that you're part of the furniture. You know, you are there. If they want to come and visit you, they expect you to be there. But if they don't come and visit you for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, it's okay. They're busy. So you're always in the shadow of someone else's life as you become a bit of retired from full-time employment. And this is now starting the depression, a little bit stage, the depressive stage. I'm not saying that you're going to be depressed, but it is a little bit feeling down, losing power, losing influence, losing connections, losing friendships that you have through your professional circles. And the matter of fact is, a lot of us, we have a lot of friends, but the reason we have the friends is because of our professions, and every Monday, Tuesday, we go for lunch out of the office, and we meet in, I don't know, in Westfield. So this is the reasons also we have this. So slowly we lose this. And that comes then that we become irrelevant and self-doubt. Plus, as long as is coming also the loss of capacity, technology becomes more hard. Technology becomes more difficult to accustom and to update ourselves. For some people, driving becomes a little bit harder. Ladies, they can't park in a tighter spot sometimes. A lot of other issues that was not prominent before becomes more prominent now. What is the moral of the story of today's podcast? I mean, what I tried to make, and I tried to highlight it, when we go to retirement, we don't need just to look into the financial situation. How much money do I have? If I have 50, 60, 70, 80, $100,000 to spend for the rest of my life, and if I live to 92 that we project, this is very important. And the earlier you start this process, the more valuable and the more choice you have at the end of the time when you need to do this decision. That if you start from 20, 30, 40, 50, you have a lot more capacity to choose your retirement time and your retirement money, how much money you're going to retire on. This is given. The second thing is also, you need to plan before you retire what you're going to do with your life. You need to develop your hobbies. You need to develop yourself. You need to develop your strengths. You need to develop your friendships. Don't rely on the professions that the world all is your life. You need to do personal one-to-one. The other very important thing is our spouses. We need to carry our spouses with us in the journey of the next step. And our spouses, they need to carry us with them in this next step. Because what it happens, one is very active and wants to do this, the other person is not that active or has different activities, like in different activities. Then it happens, they drift apart. And it needs to be brought together and have a more common interest. So what is the solution to this? If you face that psychological issue, maybe you're not, but if you do, I found that the best solution is to find a purpose. Like anything else in life, the best thing is to find a purpose, not just in your life as a broad from the day you're thinking about yourself till the day you pass away, but it's also at retirement stage. Don't forget, at retirement stage, you have a bit more time, you have a lot more knowledge, you have a lot more experience, you have a lot more values that crafted and crystallize whatever these values are. You are a lot more, hopefully, fully rounded, balanced person than when you were 10, 15, 20, 30 years old, if you worked on yourself a little bit. So hopefully you have to give a lot to the other people. And I find, in my view and my experience, the people who have the purpose to help other people are the most satisfied in their life. And let me explain why. In our community, in our church, they started 2-3 years ago to feed the poor and the homeless in our area where we live. And suddenly, it was an initiative of the parish priest and the ladies auxiliaries. And suddenly, there is about 20, 30, 40 people suddenly involved. They came from nowhere, that they were always involved in the church or the community, but in a satellite manner, just they were on the boundaries. And suddenly they found purpose. And I can see ladies that they retired 10, 15, 20 years ago. They stopped working with significant apparent aging of these ladies. They are not young as 20, 30 years ago. They're so much committed. They have so much good fun by cooking for the poor and the homeless, by packaging, by communicating with them. They have WhatsApp chats that they connect and they say, I need this, you need that. I can't come in this day, I'll come to that day. You need more plastic containers. I need more cheese. I need more bread. All these buzz. It's a lot more satisfying and give meaning to their life instead of just sitting on TV, waiting for the morning news. All of us, we want to have the feeling that we need it, that we add value to the people we love and people around us, and we appreciate it. I'll tell you this little story and I'll stop. Years ago, probably 20 years ago, I was early 40s. I had a lollipop man, and I was going through to go to my office in the city, and one of the suburbs through the go was a lollipop man. He was probably at that time 70, 75 years old. Some reason one day my car broke down not very far away from that school, and I needed an maid, to come and have a look on the car. So I was waiting. I could watch the lollipop guy taking care about the children, go back forwards and turn the lollipop to manage the traffic at 9 o'clock in the morning, something like this. And we started a conversation. And I said to him, how long you do it? I said, I do it for 10 years, 12 years, something like this. And I said, really? And do you enjoy it? I said, of course I enjoy it. I am the one who keeps safe these little buggers. Something like that, he said to me. I'm the one who keep them safe. And it was full of satisfaction. Guess what? For every day, for many, many, many years and months, when I passed on the same cross many times, nobody paid attention to this lollipop man. Nobody really talked to him, in my view. Every time I pass through, just some people, maybe they smile, but nobody knows really his name. Maybe the principal or the head teacher that's organizing this knows his name, but the majority of the people who are getting the benefit of this interaction for this lollipop man make sure and save all the kids across this crossing safely. Nobody knows him, but he didn't need it. He was fully satisfied because he didn't do it for anyone to recognize him. He didn't do for anyone to say, you do a very good job, Mr. John. No, he did it for himself. He did it for the children's. He did it because he had the purpose to have these little buggers safe. And that's what I want to end up. If we have a purpose and we don't expect from the other people to give us the medal, to give us the recognition, to say how good you are, or how thankful you are, because 100% they're not going to give it to you as much as you think or you expect, and you'll be disappointed, then your purpose is going to give you a lot of satisfaction. So to close up, I believe before you do, and as you do your financial planning for retirement, you have to equip yourself to manage and see how you're going to go through your psychological stages during retirement. And the better you're equipped for that, before these stages come to you, the better you're going to react, the more fulfillment you have for yourself, and you be the person of energy and aspiration to the rest of your family. And this will bring a lot of satisfaction to you for doing so, instead of becoming negative. The world is going nowhere, everything is bad, everything is worse than before. And all of us, we heard that story. And when we hear that story, it's not a nice story. We feel sorry for the person who has to say this story, and we don't really want to be around that person. So my suggestion is, don't be that person. Be the positive person. the person that go and gets things done in your terms, for what you like, in your way. But when I meet this person to be enjoyable, this 5 minutes of interaction or 10 minutes or whatever it is. So this is for today, Behind the Walls. I'm sure you won't have any questions because it's not tax or financial planning, and it's a bit more in depth about psychological. But I thought to mix it up and make it a bit different than usual, because a lot of times we don't talk about this stuff. And if it makes you think, even for a second, I think we'll added value to you. Till next time, this is Dimitri from Silver & Young, Private Wealth.